Take2TV. Galvanizing, lyrical, soulful, captivating, entertaining. Take2TV. Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Take2TV. I am thrilled every time I have an opportunity to bring friends and family and even people that I don't know to the table to talk to you about what it looks like when you don't stop where it happened. I happen to know these folks, Ty and Cody, and I am so excited to have them here to have a conversation with this evening. Because in the book you'll see that many places where we get stuck is in the place of relationship. And if I'm going to be transparent, that's really where I was very, very stuck for a long time. My husband and I went through a divorce. We had 2 kids, and I am absolutely guilty of dragging old pain around for a long time. So I want to start there because I was sharing before the camera, the lights, and the action came on. I read something from Ty that checked me. We'll talk about that just a little bit.
Okay. Sure. I believe what you're referring to, as you said, we talked before the lights and the camera and everything went on, was the post for my, what we call our bonus son's graduation.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I had to really, you see, you checked yourself. I had to check myself on it as well. Because it was just my way of saying thank you to his mom. Because I was previously married before Cody. And even thank you to his dad for allowing me the opportunity to be able to take part in his life these past 18 years. And while his mom and I are no longer together, I still play a major part in his life to this day. And so it took me, a minute to kind of gather my thoughts and the things that I really wanted to say to him as he transitions into this new stage of life. Just to say, thank you to him for being a part of my life and allowing me to grow as a father and as a dad and as a bonus dad. And then on top of that, thank you to his mom, because like you said, people get stuck in that situation, that stage, and they can't properly co-parent, which is what's best for the child or children. And in this case, it was what's best for the child. And so I wanted to definitely say thank you to his mom and to his dad for allowing me to play the role that I was able to play in his life.
Well, it was a monumental comment, and I can only address what it did for me. And I would imagine that I was not the only one reading something like that that may have questioned themselves, right? Relationships are tough, and they're never guaranteed. And one of the things that I have admired about both of you, and obviously your relationship coaches, so we'll talk about that too, but the commitment that you have in the institution of marriage. And I want to understand, how did that come about, this commitment? Because everything points away from it. When you look at statistics, everything points in the opposite direction.
Right. It's interesting that you bring up the term statistic. That is one of the things that, for me personally, is a driving force for me. I no longer want to be a statistic again. This is marriage number 2 for both Ty and I, and it is the final marriage, right? The other key point in that is we have children who are in the midst of this. And unfortunately, they were part of what I consider to be, unfortunately, collateral damage from the first marriages. We can't afford to have them experience another divorce.
Right.
It's just not an option.
Right.
So when I take a look at those two things, plus the love that we have for each other, it's not easy by any means, especially being a blended family. But when you have the commitment that we've made, the morals and values, and I will even say the goals that we set annually, those are driving forces that help us say, okay, although today may not be a good day, let's get up the next morning and let's try again.
Right. And, you know, that's so powerful because it's intentional, right? And one of the things that I've noticed along the journey is oftentimes people in relationships are not intentional. Right. You know, it's about he's cute, she's cute.
Very shallow.
Very shallow reasons to bring to the table. And there's not an intentional decision that's made that says and acknowledges the fact that every day is not a rosy day.
Right.
Right.
So, but how did you get to that? Were you born like this? Or, I mean, how did you become so aware?
I would definitely say we weren't born like this because marriage number 2.
Right.
So that means we didn't get it right the first time.
And I think that's it, to be honest with you. We did not get it right the first time. And I can speak for both herself and myself. We didn't come from families that got it right the first time.
Yeah.
So eventually, at some point in time, you have to say the buck stops here.
Right.
The cycle stops here. We have to break this cycle of divorce, of separation, of whatever it is that's been going on in our generations and our families, that we have to now become intentional, or as we like to say, that we even use as our motto, to live purposefully and to love purpose. We have to do things on purpose now and not just fly by the seat of our pants and just hope it happens. Yeah, I mean, for some people that works. But for the majority, it does not. We made the decision early on to say, you know what, the buck stops here. The cycle stops here. We want to set, like she said, that precedence for our children to see what a healthy relationship is like. We want to set the precedence for even my family looks up to me. My mother, who's up in age, it's been, again, this is her second marriage. She even looks up to me and says, hey, I really look at you and your marriage as something that I strive for, and the things that you and Cody do in your marriage are things that I really hope that me and my husband can do, even in our 60s and 70s, can do now as well. So, not that it's any pressure, but we do it intentionally. We do it on purpose. So, and that's where it came from. We decided, you know, we have to start doing this on purpose. We're not going to live our marriage, like she said, our final marriage, the way we did our first marriage, or even the way our parents did their relationships.
And, you know, so let's talk about that for just a second. So, each of you were married before. How did the healing process begin? Was it difficult? Because I would think, based on my own life, how did that happen to get you to this whole space where you were ready to embrace each other with such intention?
It's a mental thing, I think. You have to be mature enough. You have to be mature enough, because there are.
And that's not necessarily connected to age.
No, not at all. Not at all, because you can be mature enough. I'm not going to give it away, but Cody's older than me.
I was going to say that. I'm older than he is, and a lot of times I feel like he's more mature than I am in certain aspects.
But it's a maturity thing, and you have to make that conscious decision in your mind that, one, because it did not work before doesn't mean it won't work with someone else. I consider every situation a learning experience. Whether it's a marriage, whether it's, you know, you driving down the street and, you know, you overcorrect. Well, I know this time when I'm driving not to overcorrect. You know, if something pops up in front of the car, it's a job, whether it's a job, it can be anything. So I consider a lot of things learning experiences. And so our first marriage was a learning experience. I learned what to do and what not to do in that marriage to, determine, or whether or not I need to even get myself together in that in-between stage to determine, okay, am I going to be any good for someone else?
Right, right. One of the things that I say in the book is hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to do just that. Get you together first.
Self-evaluation.
And self-evaluate. And how do you, one of the things that I've run into is meeting a person or people that if something pops up that reminds them of their past situation, I'm not doing that again. How do you really push all of that to the back and start fresh? I mean, did you run into any of that? Because from the first time I met you, which has been a while ago, you always have struck me as this just model perfect couple. Like, I just want to go be at their house, and then when I'm watching and everything's going great and we're barbecuing and we're, we got the turkey ribs and, and I'm really watching, and it really looks like you've got it all together. I really do think, you got those of you watching that are struggling in forgiving yourself, as I have, struggling with moving forward, that you follow Ty Cody. I'm saying that with most sincerity, not just because they were kind enough to join me today, but it's a feel-good kind of couple. And, I really appreciate what you were saying about statistically, we don't want to be a statistic. And your children are benefiting from that, And I know you guys do some relationship coaching and all of that. I have a couple more questions, but I don't want to miss the opportunity just in case somebody went and got a piece of paper. How can they connect with you? And do they have to be married to do so?
Gotcha. And to kind of lead back into your other question a moment ago, how we actually got started. So because of the previous relationships and divorces in our family and so forth, that's what actually led us to develop a Purposeful Life marriage coaching. Yeah. Because we not only wanted to help ourselves, but we also wanted to help others. And so we developed a Purposeful Life marriage coaching, better known as APLMC. And that's where we came up with the motto, live purposefully, love purposefully. And I will say, has been a journey. To be able to help other couples, it's great.
Especially during the tough times,
yeah.
Right? A lot of times we look at each other and we go, how can we help somebody else?
We can't help ourselves.
Going through this. But we constantly remind each other as accountability partners as well, we can't help people if we don't go through something.
Exactly.
What wisdom can we draw from
Absolutely.
if we don't experience life like everyone else? So what you see on social media, it's not all rosy, because that's just not life. But we post those type of things to be able to encourage people to say, hey, keep going. And maybe we need to do more of balancing that out too, to show people we're human.
Yeah, we are. We're definitely not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
But we're intentional and we're purposeful.
Yeah. And that's really the key. I think so many people, to include myself, did not see strong examples of marriage. And it's something I've been really, really thinking about now that both of my children are married. Interestingly enough, they both are doing well married.
Good.
But I realize and I recognize that it is intentional and it is purposeful, and you can't just fly off with every little thing. And I think that's something that, and let me jump back and ask, do you know how bad it is really out here, relationship-wise? Do you have a sense of that?
I do, especially, you know, after the divorce and not sure I really wanted to get back out there.
Right.
And dated a little bit here and there and was like, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Whoa.
And we still have a lot of friends that are single and so forth, and
So
they're
you
hitting
hear
us
about
up,
it.
and yeah.
We
You
do.
hear about it. You hear about it.
And you do hear the comment, you know, there are no good people out there. I cringe when I hear that because I'm a firm believer we are who we attract.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not attracted...
Now that I want you to repeat because I think that's a tweet for sure.
We are who we attract. So if you're not attracting good people, that's time to do self-reflection to say, what's going on here that I have not addressed? Because I wouldn't attract what I don't like if I'm not it myself. And that's what I had to do. And I literally took a year plus to really do self-evaluation of my first marriage because it wasn't, I will say, initially, I was like, oh, it was all him. Well, it's not just one person in a relationship, it's two.
Right.
And so I took a bulk of that time to say, regardless of what he did, I'm only accountable or responsible for me. What did you do or not do that caused the marriage to fail? And that was hard to look in the mirror, but it helped me to grow up in a sense to say, one, I was wrong. Two, how can I change that in the future? And three, to forgive myself. Number three was the toughest and the longest journey to get through, that self-forgiveness.
Yeah, that is a sticking point for a lot of people. I'm thinking about a couple now that each of them are stuck in that space, you know, and it, of course, as is the case in many relationships, the blame game. It's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. And you at some point have to sit back and say, it's not all that other person, right? And that's a huge step. It wasn't easy when I had to do it, right? But it's a necessary thing to break free and move on so that you are ready for the next person. And that's huge because, you know, no marriage is 100% perfect, but what you have is so beautiful. Had you not gone through those steps that you're talking about, you wouldn't have been free and available for each other.
Exactly.
What do you think about online dating?
Funny story. Funny story. So we both were separated around the same time in our marriages and kind of went through our divorces around the same time. She maybe a few months to a year before me. And in between that time, we both did some online, you know, sites and each and every time we kept finding each other.
Really?
Yes. We kept finding each other. Like literally, I would go on one site and I would put in all my matches, and there's the match. There's Cody. I would go on another site, and then there's Cody. And I'm going, okay, this is pretty interesting.
And especially during the time when we thought, this may not be what we need to do. Let's go our separate ways. And for me, getting back out there online, and the very first online dating app I went to, put in all my credentials, and pops up Ty. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. There has to be somebody else out there.
Wow. That is really very, very interesting.
Very much so.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll say online dating isn't bad. I mean, you just have to be cautious of, just like anywhere, you really have to do your due diligence and be cautious of who you actually open yourself up to in a relationship, or, you know, especially nowadays, how much information you give up about yourselves. And I always say, just be you. if you be you, then, it works whether you're in a club, whether you're at church, the grocery store, online. Be you, and you meet that right person. Because online dating isn't bad. I'll say I even met my first wife online, for online dating. So online dating works.
Okay. Well, when I was driving here for the show tonight, I was telling someone on the phone that I was going to have you on.
Okay.
And they were giving me all these questions to ask. And I'm driving. I can't write down any questions. But it made me think that, if you have questions, if you have recommendations or suggestions, you can email me. And you can email me at Tanya@take2now.net. And 30 minutes is never enough time to get across everything that I want to talk about. I've got probably 27 more questions to ask you. And, so I'm probably going to be begging for you to come back again. And I'm confident that I'm going to get some emails, because relationships and money are the top two things that, people really struggle and have a difficult time moving beyond. Yeah. And, it's two important things. So we're going to cut here just because we're out of time. But if you've got questions, please write to me, Tanya@take2now.net. But before we go, how can they reach you directly?
Yes, you can reach us with the Purposeful Life Marriage Coaching at coach@aplmcoaching.com. That's coach@aplmcoaching.com. We are also on just about all social media platforms at the Ty and Cody on Purpose show, as we do also have a radio show in which we do on WB&D Radio, and that's every Monday from 8 to 9 p.m. and that's a live show Eastern Time, where we also take questions. So you can actually view our show on Facebook Live. We also repost it on YouTube. We're also on Twitter, on Instagram, and LinkedIn at the Ty and Cody on Purpose show.
Outstanding. Well, you absolutely have my endorsement. I learned a lot from this couple. I appreciate the fact that you're here. I'm going to be asking you to come back.
Sure.
But remember, every Friday, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, you can catch Take2TV on your Fire Stick, Roku TV, Apple TV, WBNDTV.com, or at Take2now.net. Until next week, be safe, and I look forward to hearing from you by email.
Take2TV, galvanizing, lyrical, soulful, captivating. Take2TV, galvanizing, lyrical, soulful, captivating, entertaining. Take2TV, Take2TV, galvanizing, lyrical, soulful, captivating, entertaining. Take2TV, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 30 minutes of real life, real life, real life, real life people, real life stories, real life victories. Only on WBNDTV.com, Fire Stick, Roku TV, and Apple TV. Take2TV.